You ever wonder what it really takes to get a vaccine from just an idea in a lab all the way to a shot in your arm? It's this incredible journey of, intense science, really careful testing, and a huge amount of investment. Okay, let's dive right into this whole fascinating process. All right, first things first, let's talk about time. The typical journey for a brand new vaccine, from the very start to the very finish, takes about, well, this long. We're talking a decade, maybe even 15 years. Yeah, you heard that right. It's a total marathon, definitely not a sprint. And that's not an exaggeration at all. I mean, check out this quote from a peer-reviewed journal. It really drives the point home. This whole decade-plus timeline has been the standard for a long, long time. It's a process that's built on these very deliberate, step-by-step, methodical stages to make absolutely sure they're safe and that they work. So that really brings us to the big question for this explainer, right? What exactly is happening during those 10 to 15 years? What are the key stages? What are the big checkpoints? And what are these massive challenges that scientists have to get through? Okay, so before a single experiment even kicks off, scientists have to make this really fundamental choice. What kind of vaccine are we actually going to build? You can think of it like choosing the blueprint for a house. The technology platform you pick basically dictates how the whole vaccine is going to work. And what's so interesting here is just how many different options there are. It's kind of like choosing an engine for a car, right? Each one works in a totally different way. So you've got your classic approaches, like a live attenuated vaccine. That's where you use a weakened version of the actual virus to give your immune system a safe little practice run. But then, way on the other end of the spectrum, you have the super cutting-edge mRNA platforms. These deliver genetic instructions right into our cells, basically turning them into tiny factories that pump out a harmless piece of the virus, just enough for our immune system to learn what to look for. And as you can see, every single approach on this chart has its own unique pros and cons. Scientists have to weigh all of that really carefully right at the beginning. All right, so once they've picked their blueprint, we move into the first major stage, the preclinical stage. This is where all the foundational work gets done, way before any human is ever involved. You can really think of it as creating and testing the very first draft of the vaccine. And get this stage alone can take years. It kicks off with maybe 2 to 4 years of just exploratory research. That's scientists trying to pinpoint the perfect part of the pathogen, the antigen, to target. Then the vaccine candidate gets tested, a lot, in animals. This is to get those first critical clues about safety and, to see if it even triggers an immune response. It's only after all that data is collected that developers can pull it all together and ask the regulators for permission to take the next step. And that request, that big ask, comes in the form of what's called an investigational new drug application, or IND. And listen, this is not just some simple form you fill out. It is a massive document. We're talking everything, all the preclinical data, all the manufacturing details, and a super detailed plan for the human trials. The key things to remember here is that the IND is the official gateway between the lab and the clinic, and the FDA gets 30 days to review it and decide if it's safe enough to even begin testing in people. So if the IND gets the green light, the vaccine then enters what I can only describe as a gauntlet, 3 phases of human clinical trials. Each phase is set up to answer totally different questions, and trust me, the hurdles just get higher and higher at every single step. Phase 1 is all about one thing, and one thing only: safety. The main goal here isn't even to see if the vaccine works yet. It's just to make absolutely sure it's safe in people and to spot any immediate side effects. And to do that, they start really small. We're talking just a few dozen healthy volunteers. It's a super cautious, very deliberate first step into human testing. The whole point is to figure out a safe dosage range before they even think about moving on to a bigger group. Okay, so assuming the vaccine proves to be safe in phase 1, it graduates to phase 2. Now the trial gets bigger, and the focus starts to shift. Here, they're trying to nail down the best possible dose and the right schedule, all while collecting more and more data on how the immune system is responding. So the number of participants jumps up into the hundreds, and these volunteers are often picked specifically to match the demographics, things like age and overall health of the people the vaccine is actually for. This phase gives scientists a much clearer picture of effectiveness, and of course, it keeps building on that all-important safety profile. And then comes the big one, phase 3. This is it. This is the largest, the most expensive, and honestly the most critical phase of them all. It's designed to prove definitively whether the vaccine actually works at preventing disease out in the real world. Now, we are talking about thousands, sometimes even tens of thousands of volunteers. And these trials are the real deal. They're typically randomized and placebo-controlled. That means some people get the real vaccine and others get a placebo, a shot with nothing in it. This is what gives regulators that gold standard evidence they need to see if it works and to catch any rare side effects. And here's the thing. This is also the stage where most promising vaccine candidates actually fail. Proving something works in the messy real world is just an incredibly high bar to clear. So, after successfully navigating all 3 phases of those clinical trials, which is a huge achievement in itself, the vaccine is finally approaching the finish line. But it's not over yet. There are still a few major regulatory hurdles to clear before it can get out to the public. Now, the developer has to submit what's called a Biologics License Application, or BLA, to the FDA. And if you want a picture of just how much data is required for approval, this is it. A BLA can be hundreds of thousands of pages long. It contains every single shred of evidence from that entire 10 to 15-year journey. The FDA's review is, as you can imagine, incredibly thorough. You've got a whole team of doctors, statisticians, chemists, and other experts just poring over that BLA. They also physically go and inspect the manufacturing facilities to make sure every single dose can be made consistently and safely. And they might even bring in an outside committee of independent experts, it's called VRBPAC, for another layer of public review, just to make sure the decision is being made with as much scrutiny as possible. Okay, now you're probably thinking, wait a minute, what about the COVID-19 vaccines? How did they happen so fast? And this is a really key point. An accelerated timeline doesn't mean they skipped steps. It means they overlapped them. For instance, manufacturing was scaled up during the clinical trials, which is a massive financial risk, instead of waiting until after approval. Researchers also had a huge head start, leveraging decades of work on similar viruses and vaccine technologies. So the most important thing to take away is this. The speed came from being more efficient and taking huge financial risks, not by cutting corners on safety. But wait, the story isn't actually over once a vaccine gets approved. In a lot of ways, a whole new chapter is just beginning. The job of monitoring for safety is a continuous, lifelong process. This happens through something called Phase 4 trials. So even after a vaccine is licensed and being used by lots of people, these formal studies are always going on, monitoring how it's performing in the real world. This is the system that's designed to catch those extremely rare side effects, the kind that might only show up once millions and millions of people have gotten the vaccine. So from a 15-year marathon to a 1-year sprint, the science of vaccine development is just an amazing testament to human innovation. As we look to the future with these rapid response platforms like mRNA and these moonshot goals like a universal flu vaccine, it kind of leaves you with one final question. What's the next great public health challenge that this incredible process is going to solve?